Who are you? Where do you work, and what's your role?
What's up, y'all? My name's Brian Douglas, go by BDougie on the internet, and I work for the CNCF now, head of ecosystems.
What are 3 emerging Kubernetes tools that you're keeping an eye on?
So 2 days ago, NVIDIA just launched KAI, which is like an autoscaler for GPUs, which I thought was like really cool that NVIDIA launched that. Super fascinating. Other thing that super brand new because I didn't know about it was Headlamp. So I'm actually a front-end developer by trade, so I like the idea of having a GUI interface for managing your Kubernetes. Third one, Ollama. Actually, Ollama is actually not specifically Kubernetes, but I'm really interested in actually scaling my Ollama models. I'm building a lot of Copilot, code assistants local in my VS Code using Container.dev. And I'm like trying to figure out how I could scale that and host my models somewhere else that's not on my laptop.
I want to go back to the second point that you mentioned about being a front-end developer. That's not something I've been interviewing people since 2020.
Yeah.
Don't get to talk to a lot of front-end people with a front-end background. Walk me through that. What are things that people maybe are missing when it comes to developing open source projects, about thinking about a UI or what user experience, developer experience is going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, there was so it's funny because I was full stack developer. I managed a lot of different parts of the stack, and then I worked at a company called Netlify back in like 2016, and that time was when their Silicon Valley show came out, and there was like this sort of joke in there where the dashboard for developers or infrastructure was like a bunch of like point and click, like the whole AWS dashboard. And my experience has always been, let's think about the happy path. Like, what's the experience of someone who doesn't want to get hands on keyboard, like click it and drag and drops and whatever? How do you build an experience where people can just get in and get out? And that's but my entire role at GitHub previously to this has been always about like new user experience, onboarding. How do you like get in and out of the YAML as fast as possible?
One of our podcast guests, John McBride, expressed that Kubernetes is the platform of the future for AI and ML, particularly for scaling GPU compute. Do you agree with this assessment? And what challenges do you see in running AI workloads on Kubernetes?
I know John McBride really well, and I work with him on AI stuff at OpenSauce. And I would say Kubernetes 100%. As a front-end developer, I use a lot of Vercel AI. I use a lot of the tools off the shelf, OpenAI. But those are really cool for like prototyping, getting stuff off the ground really quickly and testing. But if you're building any sort of serious infrastructure at an enterprise or just for scaling a startup, you want control. Like you want to be able to pull the levers and like turn the knobs. So Kubernetes is that platform. Like we have Linux. There's no question around building on top of Linux. Now we're at the point where there's no question about if you're building on Kubernetes or not. Like it's here. Like we're at a KubeCon, 12,000 people out here in London. So the next step is how do we start automating and scaling infrastructure in like multi-cluster environments? So it's one thing you can like run on your machine or run it in like one Docker image, but now you have to run it in multiple clusters and also think about your data sovereignty, which is a big conversation right now here at this conference is like, I'm using AI to enhance my features for my end users and customers, but what about that data part? Like, how do you scale that part? And those are all questions that are being answered through conversations here at this event and through talks as well. So 100%, Kubernetes is going to continue to inflate this ecosystem, but also expand it. And I would also point out that companies like SF Compute hiring Kubernetes engineers, OpenAI has like hired a bunch of people who are Kubernetes experts as well. So you can see also even like these sort of cutting edge, $40 billion funding round VCs, they're hiring Kubernetes engineers. So like it is the future.
John challenged upstream companies to dedicate more resources to making Kubernetes the platform of the future for AI and ML. What specific improvements would you like to see in Kubernetes to better support AI workloads?
Yeah, I mean, currently our ecosystem really just needs more public speaking, talking about how people are building this stuff. And we're getting here at this conference, enjoyed hearing the Ant Group and how they built stuff out. ByteDance also shared their experience with LLMs. Like more stories is what we need so that way we can influence the existing CNCF landscape. Like there are already a bunch of projects, like we're in the vendor hall right now, a bunch of companies and vendors that are also supporting AI, and now we're getting more of a strategy. So what we're going to find out is like we're going to have some more recipes and playbooks, hopefully by Atlanta, probably way sooner than that. But I imagine by the summer, the industry can help turn back and look back to everyone else who's trying to come up and figure out how to scale this stuff and really just share and tell.
If you could choose one Kubernetes feature that you would like to see improved, or another way to say your least favorite, which one would it be?
That's a good question. Well, again, I come from the front end space. So I have done Kubernetes the hard way. I've I haven't managed stuff on my own, but I've had to go point and click and fix some white space in some of my YAML files as well. I like Headlamp. I honestly wasn't even aware of it until this event. So I would love for more people to build more interfaces for folks like me who have an understanding on how to manage servers and how to be handy with all this stuff. But give me something that I can sort of point and click with. So Headlamp, open source. I know there's a lot of vendors who also have a solution here, but I do like the idea of having a community build something out there. So if you're already building stuff and you're contributing to this ecosystem, take a look at that project so we can start elevating that experience.
I remember last year attending a talk that you gave at State of OpenCon in London, and you spoke about when open source projects are thinking about health metrics, there are a lot of debates about what's the definition of success. Are we thinking about downloads? Are we thinking about GitHub stars? And you mentioned a couple other things. Could you walk me through that? Just knowledge that you think would be good for all open source maintainers, people that are driving these projects to keep in mind.
So spent a lot of time thinking about project health metrics, and there's some established things you can kind of see counting issues, but when you look at issues in isolation, it's hard to know if it's good or bad. But you can kind of see issue authors as a metric to identify, how many unique issue authors are actively participating in this project. That can give you an understanding of how active the project is and what the community looks like in the landscape. But the other thing is lottery factor. So when you look at just not issue authors, but also comments, commits, PRs, when you start looking at the velocity of how often it happens, you can make a good educated guess on if this project is healthy. Other things also frequency of contributions for core team maintainers, how much contributions happen outside. So looking at outside contributions is very important. And this is very important to also look at issues. So issues opened by people who are not the core team is a very, very important metric for any project to look at, because if you don't have issues opening outside, you're probably dying. And that's a very harsh statement, but it's just something that everyone should look at and prove me wrong. So once you start looking at that metric, everyone should be sharing and noticing that so that we can see about opportunity for companies to get involved and for other people to get involved and contribute.
What's next for you, Brian?
Next for me, man. Well, I wish I was going to say KubeCon Japan, but I'm going to have to bow out on that. So I am actually heads down looking at Atlanta this fall. Really going to be engaging more end users. I've been actually observing the TOC and the tab as well, and also the governing board. So I've been really just listening a lot. And what I want to do is actually go engage more end users to help them get involved, contributing, and this really elevating this ecosystem.
And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I'm bdougie on everything on the internet. b.dougie.dev is my new portfolio, my website, got my email on there. Reach out. I answer questions, and I don't shy away from DMs.